You know, for years, the whole conversation around AI and jobs has been, let's be honest, total speculation. Is it going to create a utopia, or is it going to cause mass unemployment? It's been all noise, no signal. But that's all changing, because now we finally have a signal.
I mean, you've seen the headlines, right? It's always these two extremes. On one side, you have this utopian promise of endless productivity and abundance, and on the other, this dystopian fear of just massive job loss. It's all hope versus fear. But where are the actual facts?
Well, what if we could finally move past all that guessing? A groundbreaking new paper from some Stanford researchers does exactly that. They got their hands on payroll data from millions of American workers, giving us the first real, data-driven look at what's actually been happening to jobs since the whole generative AI boom kicked off.
And the way they framed their findings, it's with this really powerful metaphor. Are we starting to see the first canaries in the coal mine for this new AI economy?
You know, back in the day, miners would literally carry canaries down into the mines. It was an early warning system for toxic gas. So the idea here is exactly the same. If we can figure out which group of workers is being affected by AI first, they can serve as a warning for the rest of the economy.
So that leads to the million-dollar question, right? Who is the canary? Which group is the first to really show the effects of this massive technological shift? Well, the paper's answer is incredibly specific.
It's not everybody. It's not even everyone in a certain industry. The very first group feeling the direct hit are early career workers. We're talking about people aged 22 to 25 who are in jobs with the highest exposure to generative AI.
And this chart, wow, this is really the heart of the whole thing. Just look at the split. Since late 2022, employment for young workers in these AI-exposed jobs actually fell by 6%. But for their older, more experienced colleagues in the exact same kinds of jobs, it grew by 9%. This isn't just a slight difference. We're talking about two career paths heading in completely opposite directions.
Let me put it another way, using a quote directly from the study. When you compare these young workers in high-exposure jobs to their peers in other fields, you see a stunning 13% relative decline in employment. That's not a small tremor, you know? That's a real, measurable signal. Okay, so the big question is why? Why is this happening? To get to the bottom of it, we have to make a really important distinction because not all AI is the same, and it's definitely not being used in the same way. The researchers draw this really critical line between two ways AI is used. So on one hand, you have automation. This is where AI straight up replaces a human task, like, say, writing the first draft of a press release. On the other hand, you have augmentation, where AI helps a human, like proofreading that same draft. The simplest way to think about it is the AI doing the job for you, or is it doing the job with you? And it turns out, this distinction is everything. The data is crystal clear. For these young workers, the jobs that are disappearing are the ones where AI can automate tasks, but get this, in the fields where AI augments workers, helping them do their jobs better, employment is actually going up. It all comes down to the type of AI exposure.
So why would automation hit younger workers so hard? Well, the theory is pretty fascinating. AI, it turns out, is really good at replacing what the paper calls codified knowledge. Basically, the stuff you learn from a textbook. What it's not so good at is replacing tacit knowledge, that gut feeling, the wisdom you only get from years on the job. And think about it, a new grad's biggest asset is that book learning, and that's the very thing AI can now replicate.
But there's another layer to this. It's not just about who's getting hired. The data also reveals how the market is adjusting to this pressure, and it's happening in a very specific way.
Okay, so first, let's just hammer this home. We're looking at jobs again. For young workers in those high AI exposure roles, hiring just fell off a cliff. Simple as that. So you'd think their pay would be taking a hit too, right?
Well, now take a look at the salaries for that same group. It's nothing. There's no split. The lines are basically flat and look identical. Pay isn't going down for these jobs. Companies are just hiring fewer people to do them. The whole adjustment is happening through headcount, not paychecks.
And there's actually an economic term for this, wage stickiness. It's this idea that it's just really hard for companies to cut pay for people who are already there. It's much easier to just slow down hiring or freeze it altogether. And that is exactly what this data is screaming at us.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've got young workers in automation-heavy jobs seeing a big hiring downturn. But
Can we be 100% sure that generative AI is the one holding the smoking gun?
Well, the researchers were all over this. They asked, hey, maybe this is just a tech recession. Nope, the trend is still there, even when you take tech companies out of the data. Okay, what about remote work? Nope, it holds for in-person jobs too. This isn't just one thing. The effect is real, and it seems to be widespread.
And then there's the timeline. This is the clincher for me. Before November 2022, everything was moving along together. Young workers, experienced workers, all in lockstep. Then, what happens in November 2022? ChatGPT launches. And almost immediately, boom, the trend lines don't just drift apart, they violently split. The timing is just impossible to ignore.
So, here's the bottom line. We have officially moved past the point of just guessing. This isn't speculation anymore. What we're looking at is the first large-scale, concrete, data-driven signal that a major shift in the labor market driven by AI isn't on the horizon, it's already here.
This data, it's the first chirp from our canary in the coal mine. It doesn't tell us everything about the future, of course, but it proves, without a doubt, that the ground is shifting under our feet, right now. So the only real question left is, what do we do next?